I just tried to do a thumbnail pic and none of them look good. So there's no thumbnail pic of me today. I've had a morning. It's not bad, but it was a busy morning. So we're just gonna work on a video, okay? Hello, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda, and as you see this, it is Saturday, so it's my weekly wrap up. I'm actually filming this on Friday after lunch. I had a busy morning. The kids and I went to go get boosted. So we got our COVID booster and our flu shot. So y'all can go do that now. You should go do those things. I'm always like, get me a shot, get me a shot. Because you know what? I remember spring break and I'd like to minimize the chance of that happening, which was kind of contradictory to the fact that yesterday I booked 2 trips to Arizona. So who knows? Yeah, but we went and we got our updated COVID shot. For those of you who have trouble with the COVID shot and maybe that's kept you from getting it, I was saying my experience and my daughter's experience. My son has never had a problem with the COVID shot, but it seems like each time you get the COVID shot, it's a little bit easier. So if you didn't get a COVID shot because the last time you got it, you had a bad reaction, your reaction this time's not gonna be as bad. And it's just gonna keep getting better. Like I had last time I had the shot, so last year, I had no reaction. In fact, at the time they did my flu shot in one arm and my COVID shot in the other, and my COVID arm was completely fine. My flu shot arm killing me. So this year I had them both in the same arm. So anyway, get your COVID boosters. Super easy. Anyway, so this is our last full week of summer. As I said in my 5 on Friday video, my kids go back to school on Thursday of next week, which is a really weird day to go back to school, but whatever. So this will be probably the last video in a while that I'll be doing a wrap up with sound on in the background. So that's good. And my son's over there watching a video across the table again. So he might just start giggling. I have no control over that. But yes, this is also almost the last day of, well, you will be seeing this on August 31st. And I thought of maybe putting this together as like weekly wrap up and monthly wrap up like I did for July. Decided not to do that because as of today, which is August 30th when I'm filming, I have 3 books, at least 3 books I'm going to finish before the end of the day tomorrow. So you will see my August wrap up next week. I think what I'll do is, I was going to do a tag on Tuesday. I think I'm going to push that out 1 more week and do like my book haul one day, my August book haul one day, my August wrap up the next, and then I'll get back on doing tags. I did not have this week, and I will get to this when I get to, actually, I did have Wednesday at Will, but I will get to that when I get to that book, because I actually have a lot of books to go through today, but a couple of more business things. My video that went out on Thursday, so there was, I don't know what happened, but there was one part where there was like double audio or something. So I took that video down and put it up again corrected, but I lost some comments. So if you commented on that video and in a reasonable amount of time, you haven't gotten a response from me because I'm behind responses. It's not because I'm ignoring you, it's because I accidentally deleted your comment when I deleted the video. So there, just FYI. The next thing I wanted to talk about was I had mentioned in one of my videos earlier about possibly doing some kind of read-along group read for a Louise Erdrich book in November, and a lot of people said they were interested in it, so we're gonna do that. It's a thing that's gonna happen, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to end of September, beginning of October, I'll put up a poll basically of the Erdrich books that I have and I haven't read, and said, which ones do you guys want to read? And then we will do a read along on, I'm going to do this one on Bookstore in November, but you know, keep your eye out for that. That's happening. It's not going to be her newest book because I have that one on pre-order and I will be reading it as soon as it gets into my hot little hands. So I will have already read it by then. Anyway, and new releases can be hard to get. So, you know, so yeah, that's with that. And then I also, yesterday, speaking of yesterday's video, was my September TBR / pile of possibilities. And as usual, I forgot some books. To be fair, I think I may have only forgotten one, but I have a couple more. So I filmed that video like mid-September. And some of these things came up since then. So it may not actually be me forgetting. I think one actually was me forgetting. But anyway, I wanted to tell you what they were. So this is an addendum to yesterday's video. The first one is the one I think I did forget, which was Fire Exit by Morgan Talty. I mean, I know it wasn't in the video, but I can't remember when Angelia and I decided we were going to do a buddy read, if it was before or after I made that video. But anyway, we're doing a buddy read of this by Morgan Talty. So I read Night of the Living Res recently, like within the last couple months. And I liked it, but I wished it had been a novel. So this is a novel. So we're going to be reading this and I'm looking forward to it. I think Morgan Talty is pretty much I shouldn't say he's pretty much a rising star. I consider him a rising star. And so he's indigenous and he's from the Penobscot tribe in Maine, which is not, I read a lot of indigenous literature and I'm going to have more of that in this, but you get a lot of indigenous literature from like tribes that what folk consider the Sioux. I mean, I know that's not their tribes, the tribe name, but that's, and then the Navajo, because they're large tribes and there's more of them. And as I will get to in a little bit, like in my area, you don't get a lot of indigenous literature from people here because there aren't that many, and I will get to that. And I think the Penobscot tribe is kind of like that too. It's smaller. So it was interesting to read from that experience. So I am looking forward to this one. The next one is a buddy read I am doing with Kim at Kim's Book Life, Michelle and Reads, and Becca at Becca Books and Bujo, and that is a prayer for Owen, Meany by John Irving. And we are doing this over the month because this is a pumpkin big book with very long chapters. That's like a 600-page book because I checked the book out, the print book. I'll be reading it. I'll get the ebook out of the library, but I checked out the paper book so I could like put together a schedule. It's like 600 pages. Mass market paperback, but still it's like 600 pages and there's 9 chapters in it. So yeah, anyway, we'll be reading that throughout the month. So that's kind of like in the background, I'm reading kind of thing. And then I noticed on Ellen Made Book Club, one of her book club books for September is The Power by Naomi Alderman. And this is a book that was in my self-destruct pile for this year. And so I thought, what a great way to read it. So I will be reading this in September as well. I just decided that like 2 days ago. So that definitely wasn't on the video. But yeah, we're going to add that to my TBR for September. So let me go around what I did this week. So I really have too many books, had too many books going. So as August is coming to an end, I'm trying to really get down the number of books I'm reading, and then hopefully I can kind of keep it manageably. And when I say get it down to a reasonable number, I'm at like 8. And like 5 to 7 is a good number for me because I read, slow and steadies, and I have this on this format and that on that format. And I don't know if I'm going to get down to that, but I'm working towards it. Because of that, I actually have a number of books here that I've kind of been working on. I'm just trying to finish them. So I did finish, oh my goodness, I didn't count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books. That is not as impressive as it sounds, and we'll get to that. So the first book I finished is Mrs. March by Virginia Fieto. So this was for my postal book group. But I actually had an ebook copy of it. So I read the ebook copy and I can get that one off my list. This brings up something that I'm going to talk a bit more about when I do my monthly wrap up, because I'm going to change how I'm doing my wrap ups. I'm not going to give ratings anymore when I talk to you. I mean, I'm still going to rate books for my own purpose, and you kind of have to do it on like Storygraph and Goodreads, but I'm just going to tell you books like kind of what my thoughts were. I'm not going to give you a rating because those are very subjective. This was one of those books that I don't know what I thought of it. I really don't. It's a psychological thriller. I would say it's almost psychological horror. It's not scary, but it's that kind of intensity, which was interesting. That was really well done. I hated every character in this book, except for there were 2 maids that come up in very parts. I like the maids, but in that, I hated every character in this book. But I think that was intentional. So I don't think that's I don't know. I am still thinking about this book. Then this is an example why I'm not giving it, or I'm not publicly giving it a rating, is because on all the things I gave it 3 stars, and 3 stars is, I've always said, well, that's a B in my book, but sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's the rating I give to books when I don't know if I like them or not. So, that's kind of where I am with this book. It's like, I don't know what I thought of it. If anyone has read that book, I would love to know what you think. It does not have an especially high rating on either Goodreads or Storygraph, but it does kind of seem like people love it or hate it. And I'm kind of here in the middle going, I don't know what to think of it. But I'm glad I read it. It was a pretty quick read, and it was engrossing and entertaining. So that's always a good thing. The next book I finished was this one. Tribal Histories of the Willamette Valley by David G. Lewis. And this is proof that I am a history nerd. So I've talked about it before, and I'll talk about it a little bit again in this video. Sarah at Roadworthy and I are doing this little thing this year where we're reading Indigenous literature from like our area. And there isn't a lot from my area. And I had originally picked up this book thinking it would be a possibility for that. And then when I got it and I looked through it, I realized it's basically a textbook. And I didn't really feel like Sarah would appreciate if I said, hey, let's read this textbook. So we chose something else, which I will touch on in a moment. But I read it, and you can see I noted a lot of it. I mean, I am a history nerd. And so a lot of this just I ate up. Plus, I grew up in the Willamette Valley. That's like, I live in the Tualatin Valley, which is right next to the Willamette Valley. In fact, it's kind of sort of the same thing. But I grew up in the Willamette Valley. Like, you could almost see the Willamette River from the end of the street I had growing up. In 1996, when we had a massive flood, you could actually see it because it flooded. So the Willamette Valley is basically the Willamette River corridor. And at this point, we're talking like Eugene up to Portland. So now I learned a lot here that I thought was really fascinating. And when I said before that there aren't a lot of Indigenous people in our area, it's not because there weren't Indigenous people. It's because first contact was really with fur traders, and it was like in the 18th century into early 19th century. And the diseases that were brought decimated the tribes. They didn't totally erase them, but they decimated them. There was one of cholera, I think. What was it? The one in the 17th century. Smallpox in the 17th century. It took it's estimated to have killed a third of the population of the Indigenous people in the Willamette Valley. But this little factoid kind of, I mean, it's a very sad and tragic factoid, but the way it's written, let me tell you what the factoid is. And this is in 1830. Malaria begins spreading among the tribes, causing an estimated 7 to 97% loss of tribe populations. Many native towns are depopulated and abandoned. 7 to 97% is a pretty big range. I'm just throwing that out there. 7 to 97%. It's either like not at all or everybody. I don't know. Anyway, when I was growing up in school, in my history education in the public schools growing up, left something to be desired. I do actually have a degree in history, but I learned a lot of history in college, let's put it that way. But I was taught in school, literally, I was taught in school that there were no Indigenous people when the settlers came to Oregon because they were all dead. That's not true. That is not true. There weren't a lot because of the diseases that came through. But the history of the people that were here is really interesting, and there was some really kind of surprising things. So the many of the tribes that were left of the tribes, all this, when they came and they got everything, they got moved onto the Grand Ronde Reservation. So as it says in this book, like when you think about Native American reservations, lots of times there's like 1 to 3 different tribes on them. You know, the Grand Ronde, Warm Springs, the Chinook, or the Coastal, I guess they call it, they have like over 30 tribes on them. So it's a confederation of tribes because there were just, it's a little, you know, and they moved them over there. So the Grand Ronde Reservation, which is where most of the Native Americans that this book deals with ended up, is between Salem and the Oregon coast. If you just take the highway, you drive right through Grand Ronde. on one side is, I always thought it was a town. I did not realize until I was an adult that it was an or Native American reservation. On the other side is the casino, which is why most people go there. But, you know, I had heard a lot of stories about life on reservations, and I'm not discounting any of those because they're all true people telling stories from their family experience, from their own experience. But the experience of someone who lived on, say, a Navajo reservation, vastly different from someone who lived on the Grand Ronde reservation. For one thing, there were like 30 some tribes on it, right? So the tribes that were left, and these are mostly the Kalapuya. The Kalapuya have different tribes within them. So sometimes they're referred to as Kalapuya completely. And now they're considered Kalapuya because there's not enough of any of the tribes to be their own tribe. So they're all Kalapuya. By the time that the colonists came, they kind of knew that they weren't ever, I mean, there were some skirmishes. There were some little they say battles. They were basically not even that. There was some tension here and there between the native population and the colonizing population. But really, the native population was like, we want to farm, we want to work, we will assimilate with you. Like, they were all in for the assimilation completely. Because they knew that was how they were unfortunately going to have to survive. Did it save them from a reservation? Of course it didn't. They still all ended up in a reservation, which was very hard because the Willamette Valley area is very diverse landscape. So someone's used to living on the Cascade, someone's like on the plains, which is Salem, and you send them out to Grand Ronde, which is the coastal forest, they're going to have trouble finding, you know, what they normally ate and everything. But yeah, so they were all about assimilating, and then they still, it didn't work, you know, they still were put over there. The other thing, I have so many things tabbed here. I don't know if I can find the one, I can't, I have so many things tabbed in here because there was so much that was interesting in here. But one thing that they talked about was when I got to the part where they're talking about, they said the schools. Now, when you think schools and Native Americans, you think the residential schools. But they started out with the schools that were actually on the reservation, which were just like, I mean, they were usually run by the Catholic Church, but they were like your neighborhood school. And they have records from them saying that these children that are coming are motivated to learn, and they're very smart, and things that that a parent would be glad to see on their kid's report card. And then they talked about, at that point, they started sending them to, it was hard. I think what it was hard to control these little sort of schools inside the reservation, which is why the boarding school came up. So the thing about the residential schools is there are actually still 2 Native American residential schools left in the United States. I don't know what one of them is, but the other is Shamawa Indian School, which is in Salem, Oregon. Its goal is no longer assimilation. It is cultural preservation. But at the time that a lot of these children were sent there, it was assimilation. And I'm sitting here thinking, these were people who were willing to do it. They shouldn't have had to do it. I'm not saying that they should have had to do it, but they were willing to do it. And you still did this to them, which makes me think it wasn't about assimilation. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, it was really interesting. I could talk for a long time about it, and this will be too long of a video, but if you are, for some reason, very interested about the native tribes of the Willamette Valley, this is really the only book that's out there. So I liked it. I do wish there were some things that were expanded, and it might just have been that the information for research was not there. But yeah, I obviously enjoyed it. So the next book I finished, completely different book, is this one, which a buddy read with Bookish Best Friend. We're going to discuss it tomorrow night, well, tonight as you see it. She heard about it from the Reading Glasses podcast and told me to get it because I had not listened to that episode yet. But it is Youth Group by Bowen, McCurdy, and Jordan Moore. So this is a YA horror, I guess, graphic novel. And it's about, there's a girl named Kay. Her parents are divorced, and her mother kind of struck a deal with her. Like, if you will go to church, this is an evangelical church, you know, and go to the youth group. I'll let you apply to schools in New York. They're in California. So she does this sort of grudgingly. And, you know, there's some people there. There's a girl there and there's a boy there who really want to be her friend and, you know, whatever. She's kind of resistant to it, but whatever. And then she finds out that they're demon hunters. It's wild. It's set in the 90s. So there's lots of 90s nostalgia. I really love the colorful. Lots of times with graphic novels, it's more monochrome. I really like the color in this. Really, my only complaint is the print was a little small sometimes, and I'm old. But I just thought it was a great story about found family and accepting others' beliefs. I really recommend this book. This was a fun one, and it did not take long to read. So there you go, youth group. Then I have the book that I did end up reading with Sarah, and Sarah and I have not had a chance to talk about it. So I'm not going to talk too much about this now because I do want to talk to Sarah about it, but I did finish it. And it's Heartberries by Terese Mailhot. She is part of the Seabird Island Band, which I believe is actually in British Columbia, but a lot of this book takes place in the state of Washington. So it's in Sarah's neck of the woods, because there aren't any in my neck of the woods. It was very messy in an appropriate way. Let's say that. I felt like I was going through therapy with her. I also kind of felt like this was more about her mental health than the Indigenous experience, although there was some of that there. But I'll talk to Sarah more about it. But I will say, if you are looking for something for Mental Health May, this would be a good, quick book. What did I read after that? Oh, now we get to Cymbeline. I finished Cymbeline. So I have now made 2 wrap-up videos for Cymbeline, and I'm not going to use either one of them. So I meant to have my wrap-up video this Wednesday, and I didn't, not because of Cymbeline, but because I overextended myself in August, and my hold for the audio, because I listened to it as I read, came in late, so it was just a timing thing, and I didn't get it done until Wednesday night. And since then, I have made 2 videos trying to talk about this. And they both, just talking about the book, the plot of the book, were over a half hour long. So I'm going to refilm that, and I'm not going to do a plot walkthrough because it's so bonkers. It is just absolutely bonkers. So my wrap up is going to be a little bit different. I did actually try watching an adaptation of it. And there are 2 adaptations that I have access to. One is from maybe the early 90s, it might even be 80s, I can't remember, but it has Helen Mirren in it. I thought, oh, this will be fun because I love Helen Mirren. And unfortunately, the video quality of it was so bad that I could barely watch it. Like the video and sound quality. The performance quality, I'm sure, is fine. It was just, you know, it didn't go well into the streaming. It didn't. And the other one, I started to watch it and I'm like, this does not feel like the play I read. I mean, it's the same words, but I don't agree with any of these characterizations that the actors are doing. I think this play is trying to be something other than it is. And then I noticed that it's like got an NC-17 rating, which I don't know why. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here that could be NC-17, but it doesn't actually happen. Like there's a guy who wants to assault a woman and he talks a lot about it. He just doesn't do it. So I'm not sure why it has an NC-17 rating. But my kids are still, until next Thursday, always around. So I can't really watch it. So I'll just kind of have to sort of talk around it. The TLDR on this is it's a bonkers, crazy play, but it's still entertaining. It's not a perfect play. I think there's some structural issues with it, but I still enjoyed it, weirdly. So that's the TLDR. I will talk more about this next Wednesday. Okay, then I finished, and this was a buddy read with Angela at Andy Hart's Books and Maria Andrea at Books and Bocadillos. We read Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguru. We're kind of still discussing it. I don't think Maria Andrea has finished it yet, so we're kind of still discussing it, so I'll keep my comments briefish here. I did really enjoy this book. Now, it's the 3rd Ishiguru I've read. The first one was Remains of the Day, a long time ago. And then I read Never Let Me Go shortly after it came out. And then I read this one now. So there's, not only have I only read 3 Ishiguru books, but there's been a lot of time between each one. I will say this is probably my favorite Ishiguru book. It's, you know, it makes you think about a lot of things. The ending, I can't tell you if it has a happy or sad ending. Like, it's not that I don't want to spoil anything. I honestly can't tell you. It's like, how do you define that ending? It was, wonderful characters. I was really invested. I do recommend this book, Klara and the Sun. There you go. That's all I'm going to say about it. And then finally, last night I read, because I'm kind of between, like, I'm not trying to start anything big because I'm going to be starting Prayer for Owen Meany on Sunday, and then I have to start my book club book for my library. It's a thing. So I'm trying not to do anything really long, but I had The Bookstore Wedding by Alice Hoffman, which is a Kindle single. So it's like just a short standalone short story. It is actually a follow-up to one that she did while ago. I want to say it's the Bookstore Sisters, but I can't remember if that's the name of it or if that's because there's going to be a third one. Let me look at my pre-orders. Nope, the first one was Bookstore Sisters, which I did read when it came out. And so we revisit those characters. It is a short story. One thing that kind of irritated me a little bit about it is a short story, so therefore short. That's in the whole name. And she gave a little too much time in trying to recap what happened in the first story. And I think for a short story, you need to just not do that. Because you only have so much space, so much time to tell a story, and you don't want to waste it with that sort of thing. But that was really my only complaint. It's nothing, it's not a heavy story, it's just kind of a sweet story. I enjoyed it. I am looking forward to Alice Hoffman's book, which is coming out in September. And I will probably read it. One more book to add to it. I can't remember the name of it, but it's about Anne Frank. And then the follow-up to this one is coming out in February of next year. It's called The Bookstore Keepers. So there you go. So that is what I read this week. This video is already longer than I usually like my videos to be, so I'm going to end it there. I am, after I finish this, going to be filming my August, what month are we in? August book haul. And so, yeah, stay tuned for that. That should be up on Tuesday. And then I will get back to doing tags on the following Tuesday. So thank you very much. Like, subscribe, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.